I'm here with Scott Gilchrist, the son of the famous and wonderful Cookie Gilchrist. Thanks for taking the time with us, Scott.
Nice to be here, Gus. I'm glad that you enjoyed the film.
Oh, it was a fantastic film. What gave you the idea about bringing this to the screen?
After he passed away, we had about 10,000 hours worth of audio tape and 11 different manuscripts, and it was just one of those things. He was always very protective of his intellectual property, and I knew I just couldn't sell it to anybody or give it away, so it had to be a family, project.
You lived through, much of all this. A lot of his playing years, and as he got older. From your perspective, how did you see, the man, the father, the football player, the great intellectual?
Well, there was no difference. He was just my dad. And then the same thing with meeting different athletes, that they were just people. There was no, as a kid, you're not awestruck that somebody is a superstar or something. They're just, Jim Brown or O.J. Simpson or whoever they are. So, I never really thought any different. It was just my father. I do remember one time going to the change room when he was playing for Miami, and the thing that fascinated me was they had a big container of Coke with all this pop that I tried to drink as much of as possible. I don't remember anything of the game, actually. That and Flipper. Those are the only two things I remember about that one.
So this was just old dad for you. All these guys were just your dad's friends and everything.
Pretty much so, yeah. And when you're young, it's not that you're watching a lot of football games. It's not till you get a little older that you say, "Oh, wait a minute, that was somebody that I should have got their autograph, a long time ago."
Watching the film, I know he did so much in the 50s and 60s for the game, for himself. You looking back as a grown man, what kind of effect did that have on you? Because he boycotted an all-star game in New Orleans, and he did so much, for the game and for civil rights. Looking back on it, what do you think about that now?
Sometimes I look at it that he was probably a man's man, a person of principle, and they seem to be far and few between. And sometimes there are a lot of people that don't want to stand up and be counted. Sometimes I've reflected to say, geez, would I be doing that? Would I just sort of commingle and go with the norm of opinion at the time? Because it's hard to stand out, and as I said in the documentary, the nail that sticks out gets hammered. So, sometimes you look at that and you say, part of it I think is Gilchrist gene, that it's a stubborn nature that if you see some injustice, you just can't settle for it. And I know I see that in my son, where he says, well, that's not fair, and I just always say, well, get over it now, because life's not fair, and I'm not going to give you everything is fair in life. So there's a lot of things in life that are unfair.
I know you had mentioned you had hundreds of hours of audio and videotape. Was there a few things, or maybe one thing, that stood out in your mind that you wish would have made it into the film?
I think there were a couple. In 10,000 hours worth of audio tape, we just scratched just the tip of the iceberg. And I would say that there were probably a few things that would give people more of an insight, but there'd be some swearing in those things. So I don't think that they would have made the cut to make it as G-rated as possible, because my father was good with the four-letter words occasionally.
Fantastic. Just from your perspective at this point, the film being pretty much done, is there something that you want the audience to walk away with? Maybe something they didn't know about your father, or something that they might miss in the film?
I think I looked at the documentaries being a format where he actually would have a chance to tell his side of the story, and I would like people to walk away with a better understanding of who he was. And like the title of the documentary, I think for the vast amount of people, he was misunderstood because they only saw what the media side of him was portrayed as to what kind of person he was. So I think he got a label as, a malcontent, a troublemaker, an agitator, an instigator, and that really wasn't the case.
Fantastic. Scott, thanks for taking the time. And I think he can also be known as that nail that just wouldn't bend or go back inside. Great film.
Thank you so much, guys.